Hi, aloha, and welcome to the Empowered Empath podcast. I am your host, Jennifer O'Neill.
And I'm Michelle Schneider.
And we have a very cool subject for you today. But before we do that, Michelle is going to give you a reminder.
Yes, if you find this information helpful, please give the video a like and make sure that you are subscribed so that you don't miss future podcasts. And if you have any questions that get sparked during our conversation, be sure to leave those in the comments.
Yes, always leave the questions in the comments, and we do read them. So that's very important. We got into a subject that I feel like is very important for people to be aware of, and that is talking about spiritually aligning with success. I think that this topic is hugely important for anybody and everybody, really. And I started talking to Michelle about this because there was a lot of epiphanies that I was having as I've been writing my empath book. I've also gotten a lot of information. I always get a ton of information when I'm writing. I have a lot of spiritual stuff that comes in. And when I have these spiritual things that come in, I like to share them with you, as well as I like to go through them myself and, look at some of the things that I'm being shown as well, because I love to learn just as much as you guys love to learn. And so when I'm getting a lot of messages from my guides, I find this incredibly helpful. So one of the things that we were talking about is spiritually aligning with success, because this has been a highlighted subject for me over the past month, where I keep getting a lot of downloaded information on. And what that means is I feel like a lot of people don't know how to spiritually align with success. They know how to mentally align with success. And when you know how to mentally align with success, you do some things where you have a plan and you create a list. You try to manifest things. You work on certain accomplishments within your life. And along that journey, you will achieve a lot of those accomplishments. It's just bound to happen, especially if you're a driven person. You will have many successes that you experience throughout your lifetime. And they might not always be related to work. They could be related to all kinds of things. They could be related to being an athlete. They could be related to personal goals and successes, maybe running a marathon, or, climbing a mountain, or whatever that may be. But they also could be personal successes, overcoming fears, or, creating a family. They can be all kinds of things. So this is not just related to financial success. This is really related to any success in your life that you desire, you want to achieve. And the reason that that's important is because everybody is unique and is different. And those successes that you experience in your life will and should change over time. So a lot of the things that you might view as something you would like to achieve, or that you might view as successful in somebody else when you're in your teens, your 20s, your 30s, might be different in your 40s, 50s, 60s, etc. And once you achieve some of those things, then you might find something else that you would like to achieve. So mind you, they're going to be currently and forever changing. They will have always changed in your life, and they will continue to change. And we got on this subject because I started realizing that people do not easily recognize their own personal successes. They mentally recognize them, but they do not spiritually recognize them. And there's a difference. If you mentally recognize a success and understand some of the things that you've accomplished in life, that's good and well. If you do not spiritually align with that, you will many times, how would you say that, negate it, or you would underplay it.
I dismiss a lot of mine. Like, I'm very dismissive of it.
That's a very good word. You dismiss them. So one of the things that I had Michelle do before this podcast is I would like her to talk about herself kind of in a third person, as if she is another person. as if she is not herself. This is something I would like you to do as well, because I think when I had you do this, which we're going to walk people through, were you not really surprised at kind of what happened?
Well, there was a lot of light bulbs going off. I had a lot of questions. I was like, I'm having a lot of thoughts right now, Jennifer.
That is literally what you said too. You're like, I have so many thoughts going. And then we're like, wait, do we wait for the podcast? Do we talk about this now? What happens? Next thing I know, I'm like, Michelle, are you crying? And she's like, yes. I'm like, wait, what? What is happening right now? But it does get to you emotionally when we realize what we've kind of dismissed in our life that we should never dismiss.
Yeah.
And so you did have a lot of thoughts going through. And we're going to talk about kind of Michelle's thing because I think it's a good example. We'll talk about mine as well. But after you sort of work through that, well, you probably haven't worked through that entirely yet. Have you?
Yeah, because I had a lot of questions too that we'll have to ask. So.
Oh, good. This is going to be fun. So we'll just start with the process, and then Michelle can ask her questions, hopefully without crying.
Yeah.
So that being said, I asked Michelle, look at yourself as if you are somebody else. You are not yourself. And describe her to me. Tell me who she is and what she's accomplished in life. And so I want you to just kind of work through that. Tell us.
Yeah, so I kind of started, I was trying to figure out how far back to go when I started. And I started with kind of like going to college. Like, she is the first person in her family to go off to college and get a degree. She found a way to finance the whole thing herself because, you know, her family couldn't really support her in that journey financially. She went on to go get all of these amazing jobs, decided that she wanted more. So she she built her own business, but had built such a reputation. I'm going to start crying.
Yes.
That she never had to worry about getting clients because they just always came to her. So she has built this successful business in a very short amount of time.
It's very emotional.
It
is to view yourself as somebody else. And not just there's more. She also built a YouTube channel, that isn't not even related to this one, that's bringing her in money in a very nice way, lucrative way. I mean, it continues. Yet, when I said, but how do you feel about yourself?
To me, it's just an ordinary Tuesday. It's just,
right? It is.
Yeah. And I was trying to figure out why, it was like, I look at other people and I'm always like impressed. I'm like, or I'll get jealous of other people. I'm like, man, like they're really doing it. But then it's like, I never take the time to look at what I've done because I just kind of brush it off.
Right. And when we started talking about this, did you get that feeling in your chest? Did you start to feel like, wow, that's me. She is me. And when you start to get that feeling in your chest, you start to spiritually align with your successes. And they're your same successes. It's your same life. But you will not view yourself the same. I would like you to continue to practice that on a daily basis, every single day, several times a day. I want you to be like, wow, that's me, though. I'm her. I want you to view yourself as her every single day. I did the same thing with me. I won't go through mine entirely, but it was very similar. I was like, I wrote 6 books when I was, 10 years ago. And those books led into a massively successful publishing company, which led me also into spiritually teaching, which led me into developing Empath University, a university of teaching for empaths, which led me into also doing metaphysical jewelry, which also led me into having opening expos and teaching in front of people. But that also, during that journey, led me to purchasing 2 homes for two Airbnbs. And when I started looking at myself like, I was her, I was somebody else, and I was viewing myself as another individual that had written the books, that had built a publishing company, that had built a jewelry business. I was just like, I'm built the Airbnb business. I was, first of all, I was like, when did she have time to do all that stuff? Like, what was like, that's incredible. And then I found myself, if I actually put myself in a different position, as in looking at myself from the stance of somebody else, I was like, I want to know how she did that. And the funny thing is, I'm the one who did all that. And it was the most empowering, craziest, weird alignment feeling that I was like, oh my gosh, because I felt the same as you. I'm like, I typically just view myself as I haven't really got there yet. I haven't got to where I felt successful in spiritual alignment. Yet, if I remove myself out of the equation and I view me as her, I'm there, I'm successful. And all of a sudden, I could feel everything coming into alignment in a way that was like, I started feeling like a powerhouse. And then I thought, why? Why am I missing this? What has happened in my journey that I'm very dismissive to myself? And the interesting thing is, I know people view me this way. I know they do. People have asked me these questions. How do you do this? What has happened? How did you, accomplish all of these things? So I know that that's how people view me, but yet you don't view yourself that way because, like you said, it's an ordinary Tuesday, whatever.
And I think
So
the other thing too is that we don't focus on the journey so much because we see that other mountaintop that we want to
yes,
be at. And we're like, we're not
yes,
there yet because that's where I want to be.
yes, always we're focusing on that, which comes to focusing in the present, which is also very important. But before we get to that part of the podcast, you do need to go backwards and go, where did I make this shift? Because little kids, and I know this because of my grandson's flag football team, they'll run up and be like, hey, I did this. I did this. Did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see how I caught that? Did you see this? Like, they are the first ones to just be super embracing of their own achievements and to be very proud of them. So there's a disconnect along the line. And what I noticed is a lot of people start to experience this disconnect because of a couple different things. One, some of the people closest in your life will typically dismiss your successes. They do not view you as the success that you are many times. It's not, might not be everybody, but this is a large portion of people. They view you as Michelle and as Jennifer. And so there's something about them that doesn't see you in the light of other people. And so they're just like, oh yeah, that's cool. And the people who are closest to you don't seem to have this really excited emotion a lot of times. That can be one aspect. The other aspect is, a lot of times when you're growing up and other people are trying to achieve things, and as you're learning to have these successes, when you have them as an adult, there's something very interesting that happens. As a child, everybody rallies around you. They get excited, they clap. As an adult, people don't have that typical response towards other adults. There is a sense of envy that usually happens, and there's a sense of potential jealousy, or there's a sense of disbelief, like, really, did that really happen, or whatever. But no matter what emotion plays out, instead of them being like, wow, that is absolutely amazing, there's a look that comes across people's faces as adults, and they tend not to reflect excitement and proudness in their eyes in a way that you feel comfortable going, I am so proud of myself. Like, I am feeling great about this. I've accomplished this. Somehow you downplay. And I have noticed that over time, we train ourselves to downplay our successes. And while you are correct, we're always on the journey of achieving another thing and another thing, which we should. We need to be able to celebrate all the successes along the way. We do need to be able to enjoy the journey, but it's absolutely imperative that you celebrate the success. Now, I don't care if anybody is not even home. You need to walk around your damn house going, I did this. Like, I want you to today, the rest of tonight, be walking around your house going, I'm her. This is the most amazing thing ever. Like, look what I did. This is like so cool that I have done this. Like, this is amazing. I'm so proud of myself, because people do not want to go tell other people that. They'd be like, oh God, Jen, I'm not going to go say that to people. You don't have to say it to people. You can say it to people who would be excited for you. Like when you call me and tell me things, I'm genuinely just totally stoked for you. You know, if you have friends like that, fantastic. But you need to own it more. You need to own these successes more and align with that, because energetically, if you align spiritually with your successes, the way that you align mentally, you're a freaking powerhouse. You can feel it. I mean, it's weird. If you're watching this podcast and you try this, you will know what me and Michelle means. There is a thing that happens within your alignment, within your chest center, that you start to feel so proud and astonished at what you've done, that all of a sudden this just alignment happens and you're just like, my gosh, how have I missed this? Right?
Yeah.
Are we still upset?
No, I'm good. I was like, I wanted to circle back though, just because, I feel like I came from a family that was very, they celebrated your successes. I know that they're very proud of me, but I was trying to, so there was like the disconnect. And I was like, well, I don't understand like why I dismissed everything. And then I kind of maybe pegged it to the fact that I kind of grew up in a family that's got a bit of a poverty mindset. It comes from like life is hard, things aren't handed to you. And
Yes.
so that makes you kind of want to downplay things, because it's like, I don't want to rub it in people's faces.
Exactly. And I think that that's a huge part of it, is we feel if we are as excited as we really should be, it does feel like you are boasting about it. And I think that that's what causes people to do that. But one thing that I don't think you realized is you kind of overlooked a relationship that you were in early on that probably also didn't help that.
Yeah.
Do you remember, when you were married and all that, that would have been also a time where you should not have, by rights within the relationship, you were not supposed to be proud of who you were, in a sense. Does that
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
does
I
do you
mean,
see
that
what
was
I
not a good relationship. So yeah.
Right. But you see how one would go into another, which would go into another, and then we create a habit and a pattern
Yeah.
of just viewing ourselves and less than these powerful, beautiful, purposeful people on earth.
Yeah.
I have worked with clients that have told me during mentorship sessions that they felt like they didn't have a purpose. Like, I really have. And when I'm like, I can see it right here. Here it is. And I'll show them, and they'll just light up and be like, oh my gosh, I never see people that way ever. When I'm working with clients, I absolutely can see the most amazing purpose within their spiritual being. And yet they overlooked it. It's so common for you to continuously overlook this beautiful purpose. And I just want to be clear, it may not be one purpose. You may have several. But I think to discover what those are, you need to first recognize where you've been. You need to recognize your successes. You need to recognize these purposeful opportunities and successes. And you need to just be so proud of achieving those. And then you're right, you will achieve those. And then you'll go on to the next one, which is why I wanted to talk about that's also very important to being present. So, for instance, the empath book I'm writing, the Empowered Empath one, I am having so much fun writing this book. And I know this, I'm very conscientious about this. I think about it all the time. And I'm loving every day that I'm writing this chapter and then this chapter. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And I'm loving this. This is going to be so great. People are going to really get this. And it just really lights me up. And then I thought about it and I thought, this journey is so much fun that when I release this book, then it's going to be like, well, then I'm sort of done in a sense, right? And then it's going to either do what it does. It's going to go on to do however well it does or however well it does not, whatever, but it'll be out there for people to read. And that's sort of the end of that book writing for that book. But then I'm like, then I'm just going to go into the next one because I have another one right behind that I'm super excited about. So I feel like a lot of us forget that exciting, beautiful part of the journey and how much we are enjoying getting there. And I've been trying to really remind my children, my kids of this, is you really need to pay attention and enjoy the whole entire journey, because once you achieve that success, a lot of people have a letdown in a sense, and then they need something to continue on. So it's never the point that you get to, it's the getting there that is the thing. So I even was mentioning to Jake, when he won his national Muay Thai title, I said, here's a good example. Your journey getting there and your emotions and your excitement, and then you going in and winning this fight and then winning this fight and winning this fight. Once you got the belt, it's beautiful and wonderful. But then do you notice, then you kind of just things, then it's like, oh, okay, now that's ended. So then there has to be another journey. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And now that you mention it, you are exactly right. And that's what also leads us to every day you should be experiencing something on a journey that lights you up during that day. It doesn't necessarily have to be work if it's somewhere you don't enjoy, but it could be something else that you do when you get home. But there should be something every day that you're like, wow, I'm so enjoying this journey today. It's not about getting there in 2 weeks or getting there in 3 months. It's about today, because once you get there, then
well, you kind of have to realize that there is no finish line. There
right.
really isn't. And so you can't expect it to just to be like, oh, I'm gonna be happy once I, hit this marker, because it's like it doesn't end. So you're just gonna find disappointment if you're putting all of your, marbles.
Well, and that's an actual thing. They actually talk about that. People get like a blues after they get married, after they remember Monica on Friends, that was when she got married. Like, people experience that when they achieve a certain level of success, whether it be an athlete, they're like, where do I go from here?
I wish I knew the details of it, but I knew that there was some story about one of the men who went to the moon, and it was kind of like that was like such the ultimate pinnacle of their success. I mean, what are you going to do after you go to the moon? And like I don't know which one it was, but I knew it was like super depressive, alcoholic.
Yes, and people get depressed once they achieve something, but it's not about achieving. I can think of a lot of things people could do after going to the moon, because it's all about perspective, right?
Yeah.
So, but for him, he maybe struggled with that. So that's one thing too. But getting back to, we kind of went off onto the journey thing. Did you start to see how you started diminishing your successes along the way? But the interesting thing is, you got more successful along the way, and I did too. That's what I find even more fascinating, is we learned to diminish, but we also achieved more success as we were learning to diminish more,
Yeah.
So what if you didn't learn? What if you achieved more success, but also aligned spiritually with that success? What would happen?
We become unstoppable, right?
Right? I mean, doesn't it feel like it'd just be like the most amazing thing ever? And even if it wasn't, you would feel so damn good getting there. It wouldn't even really matter. You'd be like, wow, I did this. That was cool. Wow, I did that. I can totally do this. It would change your whole mindset, right?
Yeah.
So, did you feel like you kind of worked through understanding where that came from for you, where you did start to diminish? your
I do think, yeah, because I mean, it took me a minute because I was like, I wouldn't say that I have like a, unsupportive family. I'm like, they're very
Mhm.
supportive. They tell me they love me. They tell me they're proud of me. I was like, so where did it come from? And I just think it had to be a lot of, and this could even work back. I think back to some of the healing session that we did and that guilt that I would carry,
Yes.
feeling guilty for everything. And I think that this is gonna make me cry again. That could also factor into it as well because it's like I feel guilty for being successful.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I don't think you're alone. I think a lot of people feel guilty for being successful. I think that the way that they grew up, especially if you have other family members that struggle financially or struggle to find their purpose and maybe they're unhappy, then when we figure out that formula for ourselves, we feel like we shouldn't be so happy about figuring out ourselves because we want everybody to figure it out that too. We want everybody to come along that successful journey, but we don't have any control over their journey. We don't have any control over figuring that out. And if we think about it, isn't it good that at least one person figures it out, or two people, or four people in the family, so that for some of the young ones, for some of the people who do want to make a shift, they can ask you questions. They can look up to you. They have somebody to strive for something like a map. They have like, oh, I'm noticing that they do this, or they do ask you questions because there's probably people you looked up to also that may or may not have been in your family, but you said, I want to have a life similar to that. I want to be successful like that woman. Would I be correct or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So what if those women never achieved that success?
Well,
You wouldn't have somebody to look up to. So you don't know how many people that you are inspiring by just things that you've accomplished, right?
yeah,
So we need to embrace that more. It's very important on a spiritual level. And when it kind of clicked how much that we deny that feeling of success, and let's be truthful. I don't think anybody else is probably going to feel as excited for us as we should feel for ourselves, really,
yeah,
because it was our personal goal we were trying to achieve. It was our personal desire, and everybody has different desires. So, what my personal desire is going to be as far as achieving a level of success is going to be a lot different than like maybe our friends and family members. And so, where we're like, wow, this is so amazing that I'm loving that I did this. They might go, oh, yeah, that's cool. But maybe that's not aligned with something that excites them and lights them up that way. So we may want to also be more aware and conscientious that even if it's something that doesn't excite other people in the same way, ours is still to be celebrated. We are still to celebrate that success and view ourselves that way. And it's all about perspective and seeing yourself how other people see you. And it's so crazy to me that everybody who you would ask about that knows you would see these things in you. Everybody that knows me would see these things in me. Yet, why do did we not see these things in ourselves? That's just mind blowing to me. That's just absolute craziness because we would be so proud of who we were and feel so accomplished. And I think that that would really eliminate a lot of self pressure, which I think that a lot of people um, do to themselves. I think that that is a number one thing that people should really work on is self pressure. People talk about getting being pressured from outside stuff, like you know pressure to be successful or do whatever from outside family members or family spouses, whatever. I don't think that that touches what people expect from themselves. I think that the pressure we put on ourselves outweigh that 100 to 1 all day long.
I'm the worst. I hold
I know, right? I
such
am too. It's terrible.
unachievable, like high standards. Yeah, awful.
I was talking to a colleague this morning and a friend, and she's like, if I could have just got you to see what I've seen so many times, we argue about this. I'm like, I know. I know we argue about this, but like if I achieve something, she'll be like, that's amazing. And I'll be like, yeah, it's all right. And she'll be like, oh my God, you make me crazy. And I'll be like, yeah, but I really wanted to achieve XYZ. And she'll be like, Jen, seriously, you have a problem. And I'm like, I know, I'm always striving for that next thing. Now, to be fair, I think that that's why I've accomplished so many things that I've accomplished, is because my, what I expect myself to be able to achieve is way here. And then if I achieve it here, I'm like, oh, geez, I didn't even, wasn't even close. I didn't even make it. And everybody else is like, what are you talking about? So to be fair, I think that has helped me to achieve a lot of things, but I am definitely going to be a lot more conscientious of what I've achieved thus far, and be a lot more aligned with that on a spiritual level. Because if we're not aligned mentally with our success and spiritually with the success, there's a disconnect. And as far as the manifestation goes and all of that stuff goes, we can't draw in what we're wanting to draw in if we're feeling like we're underplaying our successes. If we're not feeling aligned with our successes, we're clearly going to affect the manifestation process, and it will affect our journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just had a thought that kind of hit me where it was like, I would, be like, yeah, I'm successful, sure. But I've never felt it before, before that exercise. So I think that's like the first time that you actually feel it. I
Right.
think that's a huge factor in manifesting the things that you want. So
Well, I think it is huge. And once you start feeling it, I haven't been able to unfeel it. So you'll have to keep us posted, or me posted, on if you notice it goes away. But as long as you start working with this exercise on a daily basis, which I highly suggest you do, until you're really owning, like, I'm a successful, I'd like to say something else, but woman, I
I
am
know
very
that.
successful. And I can do, what, until you can really own that spiritually, as a spiritual title, then I feel that this is a practice that, well, it doesn't have to be women, but all people should do on a daily basis, is truly recognizing their successes. Because you know what? We are very good at recognizing our faults. That nobody needs help with. We
Yeah.
do not need help with recognizing our faults. We do that on a daily. We beat that with a dead horse. We will remind ourselves constantly. You need no help with that, you know? But this exercise is pretty empowering, you know?
Yeah.
And that feeling of success is very emotional. I mean, I felt tears when I did it. You clearly.
Well, I'm an emotional little Pisces, so of course I've got all the emotions.
Right? Yeah. So did that spark any more questions along the way?
I don't know. I think we worked through most of the ones that I had.
Yeah. Okay. Really interesting though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it really? I find this stuff so fascinating. It just blows my mind. It's like, wow, that was, how did this escape my mind for this whole time? Like, how
Yeah,
did I,
why did it take us this long to
right?
to figure this out?
I know. So, I mean, technically, you figured it out way earlier than me. I'm a lot
Well,
older
that's
than you
thanks
are.
to you. So
So, all right. So, after this exercise, we'd love to hear your comments, and yeah, share your story, or share You know what we should have people do is I would love for people to share their successes in the comments and be proud of your successes and be able, because when you voice them, and I do feel like it helps to kind of voice them out or write them down or like, you know, put it out there in the world. So I'd love to hear what you have accomplished and what your successes are so that you can be proud of that and putting it down. I think that that would be really cool to see everybody
Yeah.
post the things that they've accomplished and the things that they are very proud of and should be very proud of. And I also think that does something else. I think that that encourages other people that read it. I feel like it's very cool for, you know, empowering your journey moving forward, no matter where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they don't have to be big successes. They can be, don't try to compare yourself to me or Michelle necessarily. You might have better ones than us, but don't, you know, they don't have to be huge in that way. You might be, I have a lot of other personal successes I'm very proud of. Like I'm very proud of, you know, the mom that I've become and things of that nature, and how that we have built our family life together. Those to me are huge. Those are huge successes that we've created over the years. And we were married really young. So that's a huge accomplishment, I feel like, in our world. So, you know, don't just think that they have to be like a business successes or, you know, financial successes, just things that you're proud of accomplishing. And like I have cousins, one that just runs ridiculous. I don't even know what she runs, like 50K like trail runs and stuff. That to me is an insanely huge accomplishment. That's something to boast about and be proud of, and just wow, that's amazing. So it doesn't have to be a financial success. It can be any success, anything you've overcome. And just feel proud of yourself. Put those in the comments. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So don't forget to
Like and subscribe.
yes, as
Yeah,
always.
make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future podcasts. And again, just leave, you know, any comments that you have. We'll definitely read them, and please share your successes. I think that will be so fun to
I
read
am
to everyone.
excited. Yeah, I want to read those. That'll be very cool. I'm very excited about that. Okay. All right. Until next time, have the most amazing day. Aloha. Bye.
Bye.